5 books that changed my life. You know, I get asked all the time, Dan, you talk about reading, but what are the books that you've read that have really impacted your life? That's what I want to share with you guys in this video. You know, I remember I was 23 years old, living in Ottawa, working for the government. I didn't have a business. I was just consulting on contract. And I had previously tried building 2 companies and completely failed. 17, I started Maritime Vacation. Then I did again with NB Host when I was like 19. And then I was just doing contract work, trying to find my way. And everybody kept saying, you gotta read books. So I was just so not a reader. At that point, I never read a book in my whole life. And I figured I was sitting there at this place called the Rideau Center, and there was a Chapters, which is a Canadian version of Indigo books. And I walked in and I said, all right, let's look at these books. And I was so not a reader that my first book was an audio book. And it was the title that got me, but it literally changed my life. I pretty much binge listened to it over the next 3 to 4 days. And that's why I want to share with you, because that set me down a trajectory and a path that really changed my life. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the books and the people that inspired me along my journey. And that first book, and it's the first one I want to share with you guys out of the top 5, is called Love is a Killer App by Tim Sanders. What an amazing book. And really, to me, it was the right book that I needed to read at that moment in my life. Tim argued that you needed to acquire knowledge and really for yourself and your customers. He talked about your network is your net worth. And then he also shared his ideas around being a love cat, or somebody that gave value and was just a good person in the world. And I really resonated with me. And I pretty much took what he said in those books and just did it. So that was the first book. The second one that really had the big impact on me was, you know, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. As I kept reading other books, they kept referencing this one. You know, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it is arguably the first and the oldest personal development book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And in there, the chapter that really kind of resonated the most with me was the chapter around finding a partner and how valuable and important it was to find somebody that would support you and be on the shared journey to build a better life. You know, so Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, number 2, top most important, changed my life kind of books in my personal journey. The number 3 is Awaken, the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. I don't know if you guys have ever listened. I listened to the audiobook again. It took me a while to finally figure out how to read books. But that book, I remember I was driving for 12 hours from where I lived in New Brunswick, Canada to Montreal City. And it was almost like, it was the perfect book for me to read at that moment. I was just kind of really questioning myself. I was starting to build my company. I didn't know how to really do it. And it was all these limiting beliefs that Tony really talked about in Awaken the Giant Within. So I want to share that one. That was number 3, really, truly transformational book for me. Number 4, another one that just really took things to the next level, was The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. If you've never read it, it's all about Sarah's Pies. And his argument is you want to build a franchise prototype. So maybe you've heard of franchise systems. And even if you have no aspiration whatsoever to build a business to be a franchise, thinking of the way to build those businesses, because many of the world's biggest companies in the world are franchises, McDonald's, etc. So he talked about building systems, repeatable, scalable systems. And as a computer geek, that's kind of my background, it resonated with me. So number 4 is The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Changed the way I build companies and just look at strategy in general. And number 5, one of the most impactful, when I think of just like continuously week after week thinking and implementing the strategy, is a book called Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. That book, as an introverted, nerdy, not outgoing geek that used to sit there and write code, that book argued that I really needed to start surrounding myself with other people that were going to support me in my mission. And getting out and breaking bread and bringing people together was just such a light way and simple way of doing it. It's something that I continue to do. When I travel, I organize breakfast, lunches, and dinners. Every week minimum, I organize a founder's lunch, all taught to me over 10 years ago by Keith Ferrazzi's book, Never Eat Alone. So again, I want to recap the top 5 books that have meaningfully changed my life. And I've read hundreds of books over the years, but these are the 5. When I think about it, they really stand out. Number 1 is Love is a Killer App by Tim Sanders. Then it's Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. 3 is Awaken the Giant by Tony Robbins. 4 is The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And 5 is Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. And if you asked me, if you forced me and you twisted my arm to pick a number 6, I'm going to throw out there Purple Cow by Seth Godin from a marketing point of view, pound for pound, if you get that right about building a business that's remarkable, then everything else takes care of itself. I want to thank you guys for watching this video. I want to ask you guys to subscribe to the feed and share this video. If you know that there's somebody out there that's struggling to even start to read, share this video with them so that they can maybe get inspired by some of my selections. And I want to challenge you guys again to live a bigger life and a bigger business, and I'll see you next Monday.